Hey Charlotte, we've got a great show planned for you this week, but before we kick off, just a couple of things. First of all, the Edition newsletter is now free, so head over to theedition.net or newsletter.theedition.net and get signed up. You get it in your inbox twice a week and a roundup at the weekends. Also, my book, Streaming Wars, which is my latest book, is out wherever you get your books. It's on Amazon, it's on bookshop.org, anywhere, so pick up a copy as well. And if you want a signed copy, you can get that at newsletter.theedition.net too. Enjoy the show. Hello and welcome to the Edition podcast. I'm your host, Charlotte Henry, and joining me today is a content creator, a podcaster, and most importantly, a friend of mine. Hello, Jeff Gamet.
Charlotte Henry, I'm super happy that I get to spend some time with you today.
Be happy as well, and we're going to start, though, on a sad moment, and he would tell us off for doing this and being so soppy, but I don't care. Because a friend of ours, a previous Mac Observer colleague of both of ours at different points, the wonderful John Martellaro, passed away a few weeks ago. I've not had the chance to pay tribute to him on this show, but I thought doing so with you, who sort of a neighbour of his and, like all of us, a friend of his, and you got to see him, quite regularly. I just wanted to pay tribute to John, because the group chat was almost funny when we heard the very sad news, because we all had a lot of very funny John references and moments to remember and recollect. He would probably be embarrassed. He would probably tell us off. But John Martellaro he was an astronaut. He served in the army. Well, he worked at NASA, didn't he? He didn't ever go into space, but I like to call him an astronaut.
Yeah, he was an astrophysicist. And so he worked for NASA. He worked for Lockheed Martin.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you talk about people who are rocket scientists, he was legit.
Yeah, he was an actual rocket scientist, certainly one of the cleverest people I've ever worked with. I loved podcasting with him. Whenever we did the Mac Observer's Daily Observation show, he and I always used to have a great time doing that together. It was always a joy. It was always a joy also to get his opinion on whatever it was, the big Apple news of the day, some other scientific development and technological development, whatever it was. It was always great to hear his take on things. I never got to meet him in person, and bizarrely I felt that loss of a friend. So I know that sounds weird, but that's where I am. I wanted to start by paying tribute to him. Go on, I leave the rest to you.
Charlotte, you don't need to feel weird about that at all. John was a good friend to all of us, and it doesn't matter if we were in the same physical place or not. That friendship was just as legit and just as strong. And I'm glad that John and I lived close enough to each other so that I could be there for him when he needed someone to come by local and help out with whatever, or just hang out. And so I get it. I'm the especially lucky person in this scenario because I did get to spend more meat space time with John. But he was wonderful. And losing him was a big loss for us as friends, as colleagues, and for the Apple community as a whole.
Yeah, and he worked with a lot of wonderful people, before we came across him, who I'm sure are having similar, or have had over the last few weeks, similar conversations to the one you and I and our other former Mac Observer colleagues have had. And obviously we send love to his wife Lee as well, who's a wonderful woman who, again, you've got to spend some time with. So anyway, I didn't want to start on a downer, but I didn't feel it appropriate to start a podcast with you specifically and not pay some tribute to that very lovely man. And if you want to get a sense of John, do go to the Mac Observer and see if you can dig out his old columns. The best thing I can say about them is they are very John Martellaro, his columns.
Yes, actually, an easy way to find John's pieces are our good friend Brian Chaffin, who we both worked with at Mac Observer. On his blog, Geek Tales, he wrote a very nice tribute to John after his passing. And I believe he had a link to John's articles in his
Either
tribute.
way, I'll be putting a link to Brian's lovely post in the show notes. Okay, well, I suppose, as John would say, we better go on and do some actual work as well. He'd tell us off for not getting on with the proper business of coverage. And there's a couple of
Mhm.
things we want to talk about today. We're going to start with something you're really wrong about, which I'm excited about.
I see how it is. We're going to
Yeah,
love on John and bag on Jeff. I get it.
correct, as it should be. Now, I always love having you on the show, and when we were discussing the various things we wanted to chat about today, you were moaning to me about increasingly short series on streaming channels.
Mhm.
Not only are you wrong about this, but also I think it really, really demonstrates a kind of transatlantic difference. Because in the UK, 6 to 10 episode seasons, really very, very common.
Mhm.
Like the standard, I would say. So, for example, I think I've talked about it on the show before. I've certainly written about it. The brilliant, brilliant police drama, Blue Lights. 3 seasons. I think there's only about 6, maybe 8 episodes in each season of an hour. So it's about 6 to 8 hours long each season. It's completely brilliant. It's not overdone. It's fantastic. So I'm thinking of classic US dramas. I'm not comparing, The West Wing.
Mhm.
4 hour-long episodes a season, something like that. There are others. I'm sure The Wire is similar. Those classic US shows and sitcoms. I
Mhm.
mean, they're, the Will and Graces and things like that. They're dozens of episodes a season as well, aren't they? Friends certainly is.
Mhm. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yep.
So what's your objection? State your case, please.
All right. So my objection is, all right, how about if I start my objection with an acknowledgement of the validity of everything you just said? Because there are some really, really great shows that have shorter seasons.
Yeah, apologies for interrupting, but just to be clear, my point is, not only is it good that they have shorter seasons, I think it makes them punchier and you don't get that middle of the season drag that you often get with the longer shows.
Okay. And yes, and with some shows, that is an issue. All right. So I'm going to give you an example of an American or US made show that really, really nailed the short season thing well. And that's Andor season 2 on Disney, where it was, I think, 8
Okay, it took you
episodes.
7.5 minutes to get to Star Wars. Okay, fine. Well done. You restrained yourself.
It's, well, it's, I'm sorry it took me so long, but we had to take time to remember John, so I'll use that as my excuse, because he's not here to defend himself. That was bad taste, but John would have laughed. Anyhow, Andor season 2, they did the entire series as sets of episodes where each 2-episode set was basically, not basically, it was a complete movie.
Wow.
And was done brilliantly. So
That's very cool.
when you do a season where you're very intentional about how each piece fits together, and to tell that story, you need 8 episodes, 10 episodes. That's okay. The problem that I have is that, at least in the United States, I feel like a lot of shows that are done as short seasons are done that way, excuse me, not because they can tell as you said, a punchier story, which is valid.
Or tell a
They're
story in a punchier way.
in a punchier way. Thank you. But instead, what we're seeing is shows where they are trying to commoditize the show, if you will. They are trying to control the costs.
Dig into what you mean by that. That's an interesting turn of phrase.
Okay, so you take a show or a concept for a show,
Mm-hmm.
and you have maybe like a concept that you want to use in different ways, or you have a group of writers that you want to use for, let's say, 2 or 3 different products that you're producing, shows that you're producing. So you can do the thing that we've seen a lot, which led to a writer's strike, where you would get a bunch of writers together and have them crank out the concepts and content for an entire series, but you're condensing it down to 8, 10 episodes so that you can minimize costs and maximize the work you're getting out of that pool of writers, and then you have a poor series based on that. This is where I have the problem.
So this is a really interesting point. The writer's strike, that you're absolutely right, particularly from the streaming channels. The shorter seasons was a huge issue because they were employing them for the length of a longer season, only using writers for 8 and not letting people work in the gap, as I understand it from doing this for my book Streaming Wars, which you hope you can see behind me. So you're absolutely 100% right to identify this as one of the issues for writers and one of the things that led to the writer's strike. That is absolutely true. And I'm glad you've raised that and we've got that on the show. I'm thinking more about it from the perspective of a viewer. Now, maybe this is just because I'm not good at concentrating on things. I quite like the idea of punchy 8-10 episode season. Chuck Joyner and I do Apple TV Plus talk every couple of weeks on this feed, and we talk all sorts of Apple shows, and this is one. So I don't want to just talk Apple strategy here, but it is one of the things that Apple do well, right? We don't see 24 episode seasons from Apple, do we? Even with the half an hour shows.
Right. Yep, that's true.
They do. I think on Netflix there's maybe 12 episodes on some things. Thinking like the Lincoln Lawyer, that wasn't that. But I do think everything we're discussing really is a cultural thing, because I really think here in the UK we're just used to that. So The Office in the UK, maybe that was 6 or 8, I think maybe 8 episodes, possibly 10, something like that in those initial seasons of The Office, the original Ricky Gervais series. I've mentioned Blue Lights. I could name a whole bunch of other shows, but obviously when you start doing that, your mind goes blank. But it is such a British thing to have shows like that. And the way we are I think I find it more normal to have shows like that as opposed to, my guilt watch, if you like, my trash watch, which is a bit unfair to the show, but whatever, I don't care, is SWAT, the police kind of action show. It's on now. That is, again, I think 20 plus episodes a season. That's very, very American.
It's absolutely American on so many levels. We could do a whole show just on something like that. Okay, so you brought up The Office.
Yes.
And I will add in extras to that as well.
Yeah.
Both Ricky Gervais shows.
Perfect example.
And I'm thinking you're right. There's a cultural thing here, because I think there's a different way in approaching storytelling. And what we've had in the United States for decades is the 20 episode season of a show, and then in the UK it tends to be shorter seasons.
Yeah, I mean The Office American equivalent is dozens of episodes again, isn't it?
And seasons. Like lots of seasons.
Yeah.
And actually, this is something that I've always enjoyed about British TV. And there's a lot of British TV shows that I've liked, beyond the stereotypical, what you see on public broadcast in the United States, which would be Monty Python, Fawlty Towers, Are You Being Served, Mr. Bean.
Wow, we're going classic. Okay.
Yeah, it's all, the classic stuff. Blackadder, it's Red Dwarf. But anyhow, and now I'm getting into shows that actually ran more than a couple seasons or series. But the way they did it with The Office, which is, to me, is typical of a lot of British shows. You have the shorter season or series, and you will have 2, maybe 3 series in a show, and then they stop and do something else.
I mean, that's, I think, slightly of Ricky Gervais, but yes, you're right in principle, culturally you're right. I'm just looking, for example, at Line of Duty, which you may not have seen in the US. It's one of the biggest shows here, a police show here. There's like national debates about the whodunit and who is the bad guy in the show. It is huge. And so it's on the BBC, it's genuinely one of the biggest shows in the UK. There's not more than 6 episodes in a season. Yeah, there's 7 seasons of 5 or 6 episodes each.
Okay.
That would just never happen in the US.
No. Okay.
But my point is that makes it better. You're hooked, you're gripped into it, you want to know who the bad guy is, and then and then it's done. Punchy onwards.
Okay, and I get what you're saying. And now I'm going to throw Star Trek, Strange New
I knew you
Worlds
were
in
going to
your
say Star
face.
Trek. I knew
I
you were
knew
going to
it.
say Star Trek. Oh, because I was about to mention Star Trek, because that is long seasons and many, many seasons and many variations.
Okay, yeah, so if you look at Next Generation,
Yes.
yeah, that was 7 seasons. And actually, it's been fairly typical since Next Generation came along for a Star Trek series to run 7 seasons.
Okay.
And then like 20, 22 episodes in a season. And you would get clunker episodes, but you'd also get a lot of really good content. And you got to have this very interesting character development over multiple seasons. And that's something that I really enjoy. Now,
Sure.
let's look at Strange New Worlds, where they've been doing, 10 episode seasons?
Okay. Yeah. Voyager ran for 7 seasons.
I believe Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, and Voyager all ran 7 seasons. And
Sounds right.
Enterprise got cut short. And we could do a whole episode on that. But then we get into the newer stuff, and it's all short seasons.
So I think there is a really valid point, which is the one you made earlier, which is some of this is streamers cutting costs. So I think that's real. I wonder also, now we're discussing it and I'm thinking out loud, which is always dangerous. I wonder also if it's part of the kind of binge watching culture as well. If you give people 8 episodes or even 10 episodes to watch, people smash through it.
Mm-hmm.
And even, at a time when streamers have gone back to releasing shows once a week.
Which is so annoying, but yes.
Which is kind of annoying, but even that, it's a compromise, right? Because you can binge watch it if you hold, or you can keep your subscription for 2 months, which is what the streamers want. So
Right.
there's a balancing act there. Plus, they've saved the cost on making a 24-episode season. And I repeat my point, because we will eventually have to move on on all the reasons why you're wrong, that there are so many shows you can think of where maybe episodes 12 to 15 are just not very good. And they try and do something different with the format to keep it interesting, or it's a bit chugging along just to keep the story moving a little bit. And it's hard work to have got that 47-minute episode.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it's a bad thing. Some of that is being cut down on.
Okay. I love the idea of cutting out crappy episodes in any series.
Right.
Although it's always a matter of perspective, because what anyone likes or
To a
doesn't like in
point.
a show.
But we all know that episodes where they've slightly running out of budget and they need to keep the thing moving. We all know
Right.
what those episodes are.
Absolutely. But I feel like some of that happens in the shorter seasons or series as
To a
well.
point.
Yeah. And I feel like when they're doing this to reduce costs and to essentially commoditize the writers so they can just move them to the next project and then they're out. We don't get stories in many cases that can be as deep or intriguing. We lose a lot of what could be happening with character development. And in many cases, it seems, at least with the shows that I've been watching, that there's elements that are put in almost as if they're filler. Like, well, let's do an extended fight scene or something. And as they say that, there are exceptions to that. Like Daredevil season 1, they had that extended fight scene, which ended up winning awards because it was a single shot that started like in a stairwell, went into a hallway, went down the hallway, through a room, and just done as truly a single shot. And that was different because it wasn't just, hey, we can cut down on some of the other things we have to do. Let's just put this little action scene in here. And so of course there's exceptions.
Indeed. I could debate all the reasons. I love this type of conversation. I do want to move on to discuss something else with you first. But I do want to thank Clean My Mac from MacPort for supporting this show once again. This week's episode is sponsored by Clean My Mac. Clean My Mac is your ultimate solution for Mac control and care. It's notarized by Apple and meticulously crafted by MacPaw, a leading macOS and iOS software development company. Its features include Cleanup, which clears system cache, development leftovers, broken downloads, and duplicate files. And there's also Cloud Cleanup, which connects to iCloud, OneDrive, Google Drive, or Dropbox, scanning locally and finding large space wasters. Clean My Mac also has the new My Activity tool, which shows you how much space you've reclaimed over time and how much manual effort you've saved to get there, all by using Clean My Mac. Clean My Mac has helped me keep my machines running smoothly as I have to keep up with deadlines. Get tidy today. Try 7 days free and use my code ADDITION for 20% off at clnmy.com/addition. That's clnmy.com/addition, ADDITION, all uppercase. Thanks to Clean My Mac from MacPaw for supporting this show. Jeff Gamet is here. We've discussed the length of TV seasons. I think we've sort of both agree and disagree with one another. The next conversation I also think is going to be very interesting because I don't want to frame this as another conversation about how AI is affecting the media because goodness knows we've had enough of those. I want to make this a bit more personal because I've actually started using AI, namely ChatGPT, for a few things. In the newsletter I put out yesterday, just one silly example, the picture of Sir Keir Starmer as I record this, the British Prime Minister. I'm not sure he will be by the time you're listening to it, but he is, as I'm recording this. As I'm recording this, he is the British Prime Minister. I did him as a stormtrooper outside number 10 Downing Street. I used ChatGPT for that. I've used ChatGPT to try and work out the most effective way to post videos, vertical video on the various platforms. Sometimes it's worked, sometimes it hasn't, etc., etc., etc. It is very useful. We all know there are limits still to ChatGPT, and I'm interested in this idea of us finding the balance between the two in the spaces that you and I occupy of creative work.
You know, I'm glad we're having this discussion. And I love that we're not doing just another AI in entertainment discussion.
No, I don't think we are.
No, we're definitely not. I am certain of that. So the way you're using AI tools in our industry is different from the way I'm using them. And
tell me.
And I do find that really interesting. So you're using AI tools to help you, like you need an image, a graphic that helps you convey the message that you want to convey. And you're using it to help you get information that you're putting into the rest of the content you're making, right? Yeah. And so the overlap we have there is using AI to help us with that. I'll call it the research part, because there's so much information out there that when it comes time for me to start gathering sources for something I'm working on, like for a client or now that I'm spinning up my tech blog again, there's so much out there that it's jeffgamet.com. Short
Beautiful.
version, didn't plan on doing a plug, but short version. I had written a bunch of my own stuff over the years on a blog and let it slip and it was gone. I found the posts, or a lot of them. So I'm like, well, let's just put these back up.
We'll link to that in the show notes as well. Anyway, carry on. So you've relaunched your blog.
And I want to continue writing about things generally in the technology space that I'm finding interesting. But keeping on top of all of those things, it's not as easy as, well, let me just fire up NetNewsWire and see what's in my RSS feed. Of course, there's a lot of that, but I need to like track down other sources and resources. And for me, that's where a tool like ChatGPT comes in handy. And I can give it a command like, here's these 3 or 4 different sources that I found. I need you to find the correlation between what they're all saying and or look at all of this data that I've accumulated and find all the similarities and differences for me. And in some ways it'd be like, well, why don't you just make a spreadsheet and then graph or something? No, because I can take that stuff and much more quickly and efficiently have an AI tool parse through data for me. And then that gives me my starting point where I can look at what I have and then evaluate whether or not the information that it generated for me is accurate. And then I can create my content. And I've saved myself probably hours of time online looking for the things that I need. And so for me, it's like a really great research tool.
Do you get ChatGPT to then give you a headline for that blog post?
No.
Interesting. So I've tried it a couple of times. Sometimes it works. Sometimes you're like, this is not actually what this piece is about. You're wrong. So, it's not a bad A/B tester. I think that's another use case.
Sure. And yeah, but at the same time, if you don't know what makes a good headline, having ChatGPT tell you this is a good headline is probably a bad idea.
Agreed.
And I've had discussions with colleagues, very seasoned writers, who have said, here's the thing I wrote and here's the headline. And then they'll say, here's what I was going to use, but when I did my A/B thing in ChatGPT, it said to use this other one. And I'm like, oh my God, you used the wrong one. And the reasoning so it'd be like ChatGPT said, the original headline that you wanted to use, it has this like something that's self-deprecating or something that is negative. So use this headline instead.
Mm-hmm.
And they did. And then it turns out that the original headline was much more compelling and engaging. And the new headline was kind of sanitized in styrofoam.
Bit generic.
Yeah, too generic.
Interesting. Yeah, I do think, look, maybe one day the robots will come for us and we won't have to do any of this, and they'll learn so much from scraping all of our work that it won't matter anymore. We're certainly not at that point yet. I personally hope we never get to that point.
I don't think we will.
We'll come back to that because I want to hear your reasons why. Assuming we're not at that point yet, I do think it's quite hard to replace human intuition for a lot of things. So I'll tell you one time where it has worked really well for me. I've tested out videos and asked ChatGPT what makes a video do good numbers on TikTok. It told me, I did it, and it worked.
Okay, and that
Quite
makes sense.
scary. And that makes sense because it understands an algorithm and can articulate an algorithm.
Well, and what it did ultimately was collate information and present it to you very quickly. It's information you could have, if you had the time, gone and found yourself and then maybe made some spreadsheets to show
Maybe
for yourself how it all comes together, and then reach the same conclusion that ChatGPT or Claude
testing videos until it worked.
Yeah. But I mean, all that information that ChatGPT used, it's stuff that other people already came up with because they had done
Indeed.
the research. And so it just cut out that time you would have had to have spent to find that information. And to me, that makes sense. Do that. Let it be the tool that helps you be much more efficient in putting together information in that way.
Or an SEO audit of a website, etc., etc., etc. But having it write a newsletter or blog post, it's gonna look clunky, and people can tell.
They can, and I appreciate that I might be a harsher critic than some people in this space, but my feeling is if you can't take the time to write your own newsletter, why should I take my time to read it? Because clearly it's not valuable enough to you. So where's the value for me?
So what we should do is get an AI agent to read your AI written newsletter and then give me 5 bullet points, and then no one's had to spend any time on anything.
Okay, yes, and you say that and it's funny, but this is what's happening.
Funny,
no, it's not. Okay, it's funny in the bad funny way. Yeah.
My argument has always been people will eventually come back to the human. They will realize they want human connection. And for some things, now, again, this might be copium, but in things like books, websites, newsletters, video, blah, 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 people will again realize they want to come back to the human. What's your take on that?
You know, that was actually part of the motivation for me to put my old stuff back online and
Nice.
start doing some new stuff. And it ties into the whole thing that you just said where I'm like, yeah, and funny you should say that, even though it's not funny. We are in a place now where we have AI writing for AI and then AI responding for AI. And where's the human element in this? Because shouldn't the content be for us? And I think that's a key thing that's going to ultimately drive a lot of people back to seeking out content that they know is human created, as opposed to just generated by an AI, an LLM system.
So you said earlier you don't think the robots will be coming for us and overtake us. I think you meant in sort of the creative world. I
Yeah.
think there might be worlds where they are. Why have you got that confidence?
Well, okay, first I'll preface that with they may still come for us in Terminator style, but they're not going to come for us in creative style. And the reason is they literally cannot be creative. To be creative takes an
Yet.
element. I don't think we'll ever get there. Because what you need to do for true creativity, you need to have intuition, which you've already brought up. That's something that we're not going to be able to replicate in a computer. And you need to have emotion. That's something we're not going to be able to replicate. Now, and I choose the word replicate very intentionally, because if you do get to a point where you replicate, in that sense, you are not actually doing the thing. You are mimicking the thing. If you're mimicking intuition and you're mimicking creativity, you're actually not using intuition or creativity. It is just another algorithm. And the element that we as humans bring into intuition and creativity is something that well, first, we don't even understand how it works. Like, we don't get on a very deep level how our brains really do all these things.
Why is author Y such a beautiful writer, but author Z, it feels a bit clunky?
Right. Why do songs make us cry? Why do we make songs? Why do we make poetry? And there's no computer system that's ever been created that can do what a human actually really does. And I don't think that we can create a computer system ever that truly is, in that sense, human. It will always have to mimic what humanity is.
I'm going to end the show on that very positive note because it makes me happy. Jeff, you've mentioned a couple of places. Where can people keep up with you?
Well, okay, so like I said, I'm spinning up jeffgamet.com, and so it's definitely under construction, but that's not stopping me from getting some stuff up on the site anyhow.
Fabulous.
And since I was like, well, I'm spinning this up again, I brought back Fresh Brewed Tales, which is the blog where the things that I see people do in coffee shops, I document it for you. Yeah.
And we're on Context Machine with Brian Chaffin.
Context Machine with Brian Chaffin. Since we are talking about things in the entertainment industry, Retro Rewatch. That's a show that I do with Patrice Brendamore, and it's definitely entertainment focused because what we're doing, the premise of the whole show, and it will continue to be this, we pick a show, a series that Patrice has seen that I have not, but I probably should have, and then we watch it and then discuss it. So Patrice, as someone who has seen the episodes many times, and me seeing them for the very first time, and we're doing Stargate SG.
Great fun. We'll link to all of that in the show notes. I'm at Charlotte A. Henry across social media. If for some reason you're listening to this and haven't signed up to the newsletter, what are you doing? Head over to newsletter.theedition.net to sign up there, and you can go to theedition.net to read all the blog posts as well and sign up. There's plenty of sign up forms there. My latest book, Streaming Wars, is out now. You can buy it all sorts of places, basically wherever you get a book. So I hope you pick up a copy of that too. Jeff Gamet, thank you so much for joining me. This has been a pleasure, and I'll see you all next week.